I'm recording this the way I should have recorded it back then. Not in a report, not in a statement. Just me, talking, while the house is quiet enough that I can hear the refrigerator cycle on and off. It's early. The digital clock on the microwave says 0512. The one on my phone says 0510. I remember noticing things like that even before the flight, like my brain was already looking for the seam. The morning of the flight started normal. Coffee, oatmeal, my son's lunchbox on the counter because I'd washed it late the night before and left it upside down to dry. I'm not telling you this because it matters. I'm telling you because it's the last part of my life that feels clean when I touch it. I lived alone then, divorced, not dramatic about it, just a man who had gotten used to eating standing up at the counter and forgetting to buy dish soap until the sponge started smelling wrong. I had a carry-on by the door because I hated checking bags, a small hard-shell case with a dent in the corner and a luggage tag from a trip I never took, still attached. The flight was a civilian one, domestic, short enough that you don't bring a neck pillow, long enough that you can justify a coffee in the terminal. I was flying for a work training, nothing secret, nothing important, the kind of thing you forget until HR emails you the schedule again. I remember packing like I always do, 2 shirts rolled tight, deodorant, charger, the little plastic case with ibuprofen. I didn't pack anything weird, no gifts, no envelopes, no cash I couldn't explain. I checked the stove twice. I always do. I locked the door, tugged it once, then again because I couldn't remember if I'd tugged it. On my way out, I heard the building's hallway, someone's TV through a wall, the elevator cable whine, a neighbor's dog nails tapping on tile. I remember thinking, I'll be back by tonight. I'll eat something stupid like gas station jerky. I'll fall asleep with the lamp on, and tomorrow will be a normal Thursday. There was one thing, one tiny thing that didn't fit. My phone vibrated with a calendar notification I didn't recognize. Not the training, not a meeting, just a block of time, gray, no title, starting at 7:40 and ending at 9:40. 2 hours, and the location field was blank. I stared at it long enough for the screen to dim. I tapped it. Nothing. No details. Like it had been created and then stripped. That's weird. I said it out loud into an empty kitchen, like saying it would make it less true. Then I dismissed it, because that's what you do with things you don't understand when you're late. I picked up my carry-on, and when I did, something inside the bag turned on. Not my phone, not a laptop. A low, steady vibration I felt in my palm through the plastic handle, like a device waking up and finding me. I froze with my keys between my fingers. The vibration stopped the second I set the bag down. And that was the moment the morning stopped being mine.
If you've flown enough, you know the sounds by heart. The rolling suitcase wheels, the airport carpet swallowing footsteps, the announcements that begin too loud and end too soft, the coughs people try to hide. You know the smell too. Cleaning solution, burnt coffee, something fried that shouldn't be eaten at 0630. I got to the airport earlier than I needed to. I like time buffers. I like knowing where bathrooms are. I like watching my gate number change and feeling annoyed, then relieved, because annoyance means things are normal. The terminal was lit in that flat, bright way that makes everyone look like they hasn't slept. Fluorescent panels, too white, too even, no shadows, the kind of light where your brain can't settle. I checked in at the kiosk, scanned my ID, printed the boarding pass even though it was on my phone. Habit. Paper feels real. The machine spat it out with a soft mechanical cough. On the pass, it said, Flight 071. Not 701, not 170, 071. I remember thinking it looked like an old military designation. Too clean, too short. Most flights have more digits. I told myself airlines renumber things all the time. I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself a lot of things. Security was normal enough that my body relaxed into it. Shoes off, belt in the bin, laptop out, the scanner's plastic smell. I stood with my arms up and the machine spun its quiet circle around me. When I stepped out, the agent waved me through without looking at my face. And that's not strange by itself. They see 1,000 faces a day. But then he said, under his breath, almost like a correction,
"Keep your boarding pass visible."
not have a nice flight, not you're good, just that. Like he'd been told to remind certain people. I walked toward the gate with my bag pulling behind me and my brain doing what it always does when it's anxious, counting, cataloging, creating little order. There were outlets under every third seat. The carpet pattern repeated every 10 feet. The TVs showed the same muted news with captions. At the coffee stand, I ordered black coffee and a banana. The barista had a small cut on her thumb, a bright red line. She kept pressing it against the napkin. She looked at my boarding pass when I paid, just glanced at it, and her expression changed like someone had turned the light down inside her. Not fear, more like resignation, like seeing a name on a list. She slid the cup to me carefully.
Have a safe trip.
Her voice went thin on safe. I took the coffee and moved away because I didn't know what to do with that. At gate C12, the seats were half full. Regular mix. A woman in scrubs with a hair in a bun, a guy in a hoodie asleep with his mouth open, a couple arguing softly in Spanish, a teenager with headphones bobbing like a metronome. People as background, life as noise. And then there were the others. I didn't categorize them as others right away. My brain did it later when I needed a reason. But even then, something in me kept catching on them. 3 men, separate seats, no bags visible, hands folded like they were waiting for a briefing. Not in uniform, just plain clothes. Black shoes too clean for an airport. Haircuts that looked maintained weekly. They weren't talking. They weren't on their phones. They were still in a way that made everyone else look like they were moving too much. A woman, maybe mid-50s, with a canvas tote and a paperback that stayed open on the same page for a long time. She kept her boarding pass on her lap like she expected someone to ask for it again. She didn't look at the gate agent. She looked at the floor near the jet bridge door like she was watching for a shadow. I sat down with my coffee, checked my phone. 0658. The microwave clock memory hit me. 0510 versus 0512. The airport monitors above the gate showed the flight status, on time. But the clock in the corner of the screen on the monitor, small, usually ignored, said 0642. I blinked at it, then looked at my phone again. 0658. I looked around, expecting someone else to notice, to laugh. No one reacted. The gate agent didn't even glance up. The monitor didn't correct itself. I stood and walked closer to make sure I wasn't misreading. The monitor clock flipped to 0643. My phone was still 0658. 15 minutes. It shouldn't have mattered. It should have been nothing. Airports glitch, screens lag. But my chest tightened like the bag vibration had moved inside me. I sat back down. Across from me, the woman with the paperback turned a page she hadn't read. And one of the still men, plain clothes, clean shoes, looked directly at me for the first time. Not with curiosity, like checking a box. They boarded us in groups like always. Families first, assistants, then rows. The gate agent's smile was pasted on. The scanner beeped each time a pass hit it. My turn came and I handed over the paper like a good citizen. The agent scanned it and the beep was different. Not the normal chirp. This was a lower tone, longer, like a machine acknowledging a different category. The gate agent's fingers tightened on the pass. He didn't look at me. He looked past me, toward the end of the counter.
Step to the side for a moment.
No explanation, no apology, just the sentence. Queen, routine, like he'd said it 100 times today. I stepped aside with my bag. I tried to tell myself it was random, SSS on the pass, extra screening, my name flagged for someone else's record, all the normal reasons. A second agent appeared. Not TSA, not airline, no badge I recognized. He wore a dark blazer and an earpiece that sat too perfectly against his skin.
Mr. Carter?
That's my name, yes. Popular enough, easy enough, but hearing it from him made it feel borrowed. Yes.
Follow me.
He didn't wait for me to agree. He walked. I followed because my body has always been better at following than fighting when things get official. He led me 2 gates down to a little area behind a pillar where you couldn't see the main flow. It wasn't a room, just a corner of the terminal that felt like a room because of how he stood in it. Another man was there holding a small tablet. No uniform, no airline logo, just clean hands and a neutral face.
We need you to acknowledge the standard passenger advisement.
My mouth went dry. What?
Standard advisement. You're part of a scheduled operational exercise. It does not affect your safety. It does require your discretion.
I'm sorry, I'm just flying to.
We know why you're traveling. This is not about your reason. This is about the route.
I started to laugh, but it died because no one else laughed. Is this a joke?
We need you to sign.
He tilted his head slightly, like listening to someone else through the earpiece. The man with the tablet held it out. On the screen was a single paragraph of text and a signature line. I did not read it properly, I'm admitting that. I scanned it the way people scan terms and conditions. Words like voluntary, confidential, non-disclosure, civil penalty. It was written in legal English, cold, dense, designed to be obeyed, not understood. I should have refused. Here's the thing that makes me sick. I remember feeling relieved. Because it explained the weirdness, it gave my brain a frame. It turned the monitor clock into exercise instead of impossible. What happens if I don't sign?
Then you'll be rebooked, you'll be delayed, and you will still have been briefed.
The sentence landed like a trap, closing quietly. I realized refusal didn't undo anything. Refusal just made me the problem. Is this government?
It's domestic, it's controlled, it's safe.
Safe. That word again. My hand shook a little as I signed my name with my finger. The man with a tablet tapped once, and the screen went blank, like it had never been there.
Keep your boarding pass visible. Follow crew instructions precisely. If you experience disorientation, remain seated. If you're approached by personnel during the flight, comply.
Personnel?
Personnel.
He stepped back, and that was the end of it. No pamphlet, no contact number, no badge flashed, just 2 men melting back into the airport flow. When I walked back to gate C12, boarding had almost finished. People were funneling into the jet bridge, shoulder to shoulder, normal impatience. The woman with the paperback stood and joined the line. One of the clean shoe men moved too, like a synchronized decision had been made. I stepped onto the plane with everyone else, trying to hold my face in a neutral shape. The cabin smelled like recycled air and lemon cleaner. The lights were dimmer than usual for boarding, that soft yellow-blue that suggests calm. It felt staged. I found my seat, 14A, window, my favorite, control, something solid to lean against. I lifted my bag into the overhead bin and felt that same vibration in the handle. Brief, like a heartbeat, then nothing. I sat down and buckled in, even though we weren't moving yet. Across the aisle, the woman in scrubs fussed with her tote. The hoodie guy put his headphones back on. People were settling. People were normal. But the flight attendants weren't. They moved with a different rhythm. Less chatter, less eye contact. They didn't do the usual jokes about overhead space. Their smiles were too even, like training smiles. One of them stopped at my row, a woman, maybe early 30s, blonde hair tight in a bun, name tag that said Emily. She looked at me and held the smile.
Mr. Carter, window seat, thank you for being on time. Please keep your seatbelt fastened when seated. If you need anything, press the call button and wait. Do not stand in the aisle unless instructed.
That wasn't how they talk, not exactly. It was too formal, too scripted. Okay. Her eyes flicked to my boarding pass, tucked into the seat pocket in front of me like a flag. Then she moved on. I watched her walk toward the front, and I noticed something I wish I hadn't noticed. Her shoes were the same as the clean shoe men's, not identical, but the same kind of uniform quiet, like they didn't squeak, like they weren't meant to leave sound. We pushed back on time. The engine pitch rose. The plane did the familiar slow roll away from the gate, the small bump over seams in the pavement. Normal. My shoulders dropped a little. The safety video played. Nobody watched. The flight attendant stood with practiced posture. I watched the screen anyway because it's something to do with your eyes when your brain is trying not to think. We took off, and the city fell away. The wing tilted. The sun hit the window and warmed the plastic edge of it. I remember the exact feeling of the climb. Lightness in the stomach, pressure change in the ears. At 0803, the seatbelt sign turned off. People unbuckled, phones came out, small talk began. The plane's hum settled into that steady white noise that makes some people sleepy. I checked my phone. No service, of course. But the time mattered to me. 0805. Then I looked at the seatback screen map. The little plane icon was moving along the route. It said we were at 17,000 feet and climbing. Normal. But in the corner of the map screen, the time said 0749. I felt the same tightness in my chest as at the gate. I clicked the info button. Sometimes those screens showed destination time instead of local, but it didn't say that. It just showed a time. I stared at it until my eyes watered a little. The hoodie guy across the aisle leaned toward his friend and said something I didn't catch, laughing. Normal. The woman in scrubs opened a snack. I raised my hand slightly and caught Emily's eye as she passed. Excuse me. She stopped in the aisle, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Light, clean, like soap. It should have been comforting. The screen time seems wrong.
The system can lag. Please don't worry about it.
It's 15 minutes behind.
Thank you for letting me know.
Her voice didn't change. She didn't look at the screen. She didn't even pretend to check. She just moved on like I'd said something expected. 10 minutes later, the first turbulence hit. I've been on flights with turbulence, bumpy air, sudden drops, the kind that makes people gasp and grip armrests. This wasn't that. This was a shiver, a vibration that ran through the cabin like a muscle twitch. The overhead panels rattled lightly, not violently, more like a quick tremor. The seatbelt sign snapped on. The captain's voice came on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting a brief period of air movement. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
He sounded normal, calm, but there was something under it, like he was reading, not speaking. People obeyed, bags stowed, the aisle cleared. The shiver happened again, shorter this time. It felt like the plane had passed through a thin sheet of something. Then everything went too quiet. Not silent. The engine still hummed, the air still moved from the vents, but the layer of tiny sounds, whispers, coughs, the faint clink of someone's ice fell away, like someone turned the volume down on the human part of the cabin. I looked around. People were sitting too still.
The hoodie guy had his headphones on, but his head wasn't bobbing anymore. His mouth hung slightly open, like he'd fallen asleep, except his eyes were open, fixed on nothing. The woman in scrubs had her hands on her lap, snack half open, frozen. The arguing couple had stopped mid-argument. Their faces held the shape of the last emotion like a paused video. I told myself it was my perception. Anxiety, panic. That's what trauma does. It highlights normal things and makes them look wrong. But then Emily walked down the aisle, and no one looked at her. Not one head turned. Not one "excuse me" as she passed. It was like she was the only moving thing in a cabin full of mannequins. She stopped at row 13, one row ahead of me. A man sat there, middle-aged, baseball cap, earbuds. I hadn't noticed him before. Normal passenger. Emily leaned in and spoke softly, too soft to hear. The man stood up immediately, no hesitation, no confusion. He followed her toward the front, stepping over knees without apology. People didn't react to him bumping them, like their bodies were there, but their attention wasn't. My skin prickled. I unbuckled my seatbelt without thinking, then froze because Emily's earlier instruction snapped back. Do not stand unless instructed. My fingers hovered over the buckle. The shiver came again, and this time it wasn't the plane. It was inside my teeth, a vibration that made my jaw ache. The cabin lights flickered once, just a blink. When they steadied, the man from row 13 was gone into the front galley, and the seatback map screen, which had been showing 0749, now showed 0822. My phone said 0707. I stared until my eyes blurred. I looked down the aisle and saw one of the clean shoe men standing near the lavatory door, watching the cabin like he was counting heads. He glanced at me and put a finger to his lips. Not dramatic, not aggressive, just a small, practiced gesture. Keep quiet. Then he turned and disappeared behind the curtain to the front. The woman with the paperback, 2 rows behind me on the other side. I twisted in my seat to look. Her paperback was on her lap, open, but her eyes were closed now, and her lips were moving silently, like she was repeating something she'd been told to memorize. I'm going to say this clearly, because I've tried 100 ways to make it less true. We lost time. Not I fell asleep, not I zoned out. Time was taken from the cabin, like someone cut a segment out of a recording. I know because my body remembered the before and the after, but my mind couldn't connect them. One moment, I was staring at the map screen, feeling my teeth vibrate, watching people sit like paused statues. The next moment, my seatbelt was fastened again, and my hands were folded on my lap like I'd placed them there carefully. My coffee cup, empty, was in the seat pocket in front of me. I don't remember finishing it. I don't remember drinking it after the shiver began. The cabin lights were dimmer now, like late afternoon, even though it should have still been morning. A soft amber tone that made faces look tired. People were moving again, talking, shifting. Normal human noise had returned like a switch flipped back on. The seatbelt sign was off. The map screen showed us farther along the route than we should have been. The icon was nearly over the destination. I checked my phone. 0931. My stomach dropped. That meant more than an hour had passed. I looked at the woman in scrubs. She was chatting with the flight attendant as if nothing happened, laughing softly. The hoodie guy was scrolling on his phone like normal. I leaned out toward the aisle, trying to catch Emily. "Excuse me." She turned instantly, like she'd been waiting for me to speak. How long were the seatbelts on?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes? My phone said we jumped over an hour. No, I mean, what time is this supposed to be?
We'll be landing shortly.
She didn't answer the question. My throat tightened. I lowered my voice. "That man you took from row 13, where is he?" Emily's smile stayed in place, but something behind it shifted, like a camera refocusing.
Which man?
The man in the baseball cap. You spoke to him. He stood up and went with you. She glanced at row 13 like she'd never looked at it before.
That seat has been empty.
My skin went cold. I looked at row 13. It was empty. The seatbelt was neatly arranged, the tray table up, no blanket, no headphones, no impression of a person. I stood up despite the rules because my body did it before my mind could stop it. I stepped into the aisle, heart pounding. I saw him. Heads turned. People looked annoyed, not frightened, like I was the problem now, like I was interrupting. I'm distressed. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for it. One of the clean chute men appeared at the front curtain. He didn't rush. He just stood where he could be seen, a quiet authority in a narrow aisle. Emily took my elbow with 2 fingers, not hard, but it was the kind of touch that says, comply or become a scene. I sat down. My hands were shaking. My mouth tasted metallic. I looked around the cabin for any sign that anyone else remembered the pause, the stillness, the shiver. But faces were casual again. Small talk, snacks. The world pretending to be itself. The woman with the paper bag caught my eye for the first time. Her eyes were open now, clear, alert. She held my gaze and did something subtle. She tapped the side of her wrist where a watch would be. Then she mouthed, silently, "No." I swallowed. I nodded slightly because it was the only safe language. She looked away immediately like we'd never connected. A few minutes later, the captain announced descent.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
But we hadn't announced any turbulence. We hadn't announced any delays. We were just suddenly landing. The plane angled downward, and that's when I noticed the smell. It wasn't just recycled air anymore. There was a faint chemical edge to it, like rubbing alcohol or something used to clean medical equipment. It made the back of my throat sting. People didn't react. I pressed my call button. Nothing happened. No chime, no light, like it wasn't connected. I looked at the seat pocket in front of me where my boarding pass sat. I pulled it out. The ink looked slightly smeared, like it had been printed and then exposed to moisture. Flight 071, Gate C12, destination code. But the date line, where the date should have been, was blank. I flipped it over. On the back, in small printed text I hadn't noticed earlier, was a string of letters and numbers like a file reference. And beneath it, one word, release. My hands went numb. We landed somewhere that didn't feel like an airport. The wheels hit the ground with a heavy thud. The engines reversed. Normal mechanics, familiar physics. But when we slowed and turned, I looked out the window and didn't see terminal buildings with logos. I saw wide concrete, floodlights, a long fence line, and in the distance, silhouettes that looked like hangars. No jet bridge. We stopped on the tarmac. The cabin stayed quiet in a way that wasn't normal post-landing quiet. Usually, people clap sometimes, or exhale, or immediately unbuckle and stand. Nobody stood. Nobody unbuckled. They sat like they were waiting for permission.
Please remain seated. Deplaning will proceed by row when instructed. Keep your belongings with you. Do not use your phones.
A few people laughed lightly at that last part like it was a joke, like, "Ha, okay, Mom." But then the chemical smells strengthened and the laughter stopped. The front door opened, not with the normal sounds of a jet bridge connecting, just the door's seal breaking and air rushing in. It was colder outside than it should have been, a dry cold that smelled like metal. I expected stairs, ground crew in reflective vests. Instead, I saw men in dark clothing with no airline insignia, earpieces, clipboards, gloves. And behind them, 2 people in uniform that was not TSA and not airport police. Dark green, patches I couldn't read from my seat. A line formed in the aisle, but it wasn't passengers standing, it was personnel entering. They moved down the aisle, stopping at certain rows, scanning faces. I held my body still. I tried to make my breathing shallow. That's a stupid instinct, like stillness makes you invisible. One of the uniformed people stopped at row 13, the empty seat, then looked down at a tablet, like confirming something. He nodded once to no one. They came to my row. The man in front leaned down, eyes flicking over me like an object.
Carter.
He didn't ask, he stated. I didn't answer out loud because my throat didn't work. He gestured.
Row 14, aisle now.
I unbuckled. My legs felt wrong, like my joints had been lubricated with something. I stood too easily. Emily was watching from the galley. Her face was blank now, no smile. I stepped into the aisle and followed the man toward the front. As I passed the woman with the paperback, she reached out and lightly touched my sleeve, not grabbing, just contact. Her fingers were cold, too cold.
Don't sign anything else.
Then she looked down at her book again, like she hadn't spoken. I reached the front door. The cold air hit my face. Outside, the sky looked wrong. The light was flat, no clear sun angle, like overcast but without clouds. We walked down portable stairs. The concrete below was wet in patches, reflecting the floodlights, though it was daytime. It made no sense. A bus waited near the plane, unmarked, no airline branding, just white, like a vehicle designed to be unnoticed. Its doors were open. Inside, I saw more people, some passengers from the plane, already seated, silent, hands on laps. The man guided me onto the bus. I sat where he pointed. The seat smelled like vinyl and disinfectant. The bus door shut with a heavy seal. For the first time, I saw my reflection in the bus window. My face was pale, my eyes wide, but there was something else. A faint rectangular mark on the side of my neck, just under the jawline, like a sticker had been peeled off, or like a patch had been placed there for hours and removed. The skin looked irritated. I touched it and flinched. It was tender. Across from me, the hoodie guy was staring at his hands like he'd never seen them before.
What time is it?
No one answered. The bus started moving. Outside, we passed fences and buildings without signs. We passed a runway, then another, then a stretch of empty concrete that felt endless. I checked my phone despite the instruction. No service. The time read 10:04. I blinked and it changed to 08:17, then to 09:55, then to 10:04 again. Like the phone couldn't decide what reality it belonged to. My stomach lurched. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, we were stopped in front of a low building with no windows. The door opened.
Row by row.
We filed out. Inside the building, the air was warmer and smelled strongly of antiseptic. The lighting was harsh and white, like a clinic. We were led into a room with folding tables and chairs. On each table, a stack of papers, a pen, a small plastic cup of water. A man in a white coat stood at the front. Not elderly, early 40s, friendly posture. The human mask of a machine.
Thank you for your cooperation. This will be quick. You experienced a rare atmospheric event that required controlled landing procedures. For your safety and the safety of others, you will sign a standard confidentiality agreement and receive a brief medical screening.
He said it like it was weather, like it was turbulence and not whatever had happened in that cabin. My hands were sweating. The woman with the paperback sat 2 seats away from me. She didn't touch the pen. Hoodie guy stared at the paper like it was written in a language he couldn't recognize. Someone at the back started to cry quietly. Dr. Benner moved between rows, smiling softly, placing a hand on shoulders, guiding pens into fingers. When he reached me, he leaned down.
Mr. Carter, you're doing well. Just sign. Then you'll go home.
Home. That word hit me like a bruise. I wanted it. My brain wanted it so badly it almost made the pen move. I want to read it.
You can, of course, but we're on a schedule.
I looked at the top paragraph, and my eyes snagged on one line. Acknowledged that no such flight occurred as described. My stomach rolled. What does that mean?
It means you may have sensory distortions. That's normal after an event like this. We'll help you process it.
I didn't hallucinate an entire flight.
You would be surprised what the brain can do to protect itself.
The woman with the paperback spoke without looking up.
He's lying.
Her voice was calm, like stating the temperature. Everyone froze again, but not like before. This was human fear now. People afraid to be the first to acknowledge reality.
Ma'am, I understand you feel...
You're going to erase us, and you're going to keep one.
My blood went cold. Dr. Benner's smile didn't break. He took a step closer to her table.
No one is being erased. We're ensuring everyone returns to their lives safely.
Not everyone.
She finally looked up. Her eyes met mine, direct and steady.
He's the release.
The word on my boarding pass burned in my mind. Release. Dr. Benner's gaze flicked to me for a fraction of a second, fast and practiced, and then back to her.
Margaret, please sign the document.
Her mouth tightened like she tasted something bitter.
No.
2 uniformed people appeared behind her without sound. They didn't grab her, they didn't drag her. They simply placed a hand on each of her arms and lifted her gently, like helping someone up from a chair. She didn't fight. She just looked at me as they guided her toward a door on the side of the room that I hadn't noticed before.
Remember the moment with the lights.
Then she was gone. The side door shut softly. No one spoke.
Thank you. We will continue.
My hands started shaking so hard the pen rattled against the table. I didn't sign. Not yet. I looked at the paper again, my eyes skimming past legal language to the line I couldn't unsee. In consideration of your release. Release. As if I was being let out of something, as if I wasn't a passenger, as if I was a component. Dr. Benner leaned down closer, voice soft enough that only I could hear.
Mr. Carter, you already signed once today.
I didn't understand.
You didn't need to.
My mouth tasted metallic again. What happened to the man from row 13?
There was no man in row 13.
I saw him.
No, you saw a placeholder.
My skin prickled. What does that mean?
It means you're observant. That's why you're here.
I stared at him. Here where?
Safe.
Again that word, safe. He placed the pen near my fingers like offering a lifeline.
Sign, drink the water, and you'll go back to your life. And Mr. Carter, you'll be grateful you didn't make this difficult.
My hand moved, not because I believed him, because somewhere behind me, someone sobbed harder, and no one comforted them. I realized comfort wasn't available here, only compliance. I signed. My name looked wrong on the line, like it belonged to someone else. I lifted the water cup and drank. The water tasted faintly sweet, like something added. My throat tightened. The room blurred at the edges.
Thank you. You won't remember the worst part. That's the point.
I need you to understand what after looked like, because the horror isn't just the flight. The horror is how easily life accepted me back, like nothing had happened. I woke up in a normal airport, a real terminal with airline signs, people rushing, kids crying, Starbucks cups, the smell of cinnamon pretzels. My carry-on was beside me. My phone had service. I had a missed call from my boss asking if I'd landed. My boarding pass was gone. I checked the time. It was 09:18. I opened my photos and looked for something, anything like proof. I had none. No pictures from the gate, no screenshot of the flight number. My phone history showed I'd been in my home city, then at the airport, then nothing, like the movement between had been smoothed over. I called my ex-wife without thinking. She answered groggy.
Why are you calling?
I just wanted to hear your voice. Silence.
Are you drunk?
No.
Then what is this?
I didn't have words. I hung up. I went to the restroom and looked at my neck. The rectangular mark was gone, but the skin there looked newer, slightly different texture, like scar tissue that had healed perfectly. I went to my training as scheduled. I sat in a conference room and pretended to take notes. People talked about policies and metrics. A man next to me chewed gum loudly. Every so often, I'd lose a sentence, like someone had cut a strip out of the audio of my life. I told myself it was stress. 2 nights later, someone called me from a blocked number. I answered because some part of me already knew I would. A man spoke. Not Dr. Benner, not the blazer guy. Someone else, voice flat.
Mr. Carter, this is a courtesy call. You will not discuss Flight 071. You will not search for Flight 071. You will not contact other passengers. You will not return to the departure airport for any reason unrelated to travel. If you experience dreams or intrusive memories, you will treat them as symptoms of acute stress. If you do not comply, you will be considered in breach.
My mouth went dry. Who are you?
Someone who is ensuring you keep your release.
Release from what?
From responsibility.
Then the call ended. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was brave or smart, because every time I tried to form the sentence, my tongue felt heavy, like the words didn't want to exist. That's the part people don't understand when they hear stories like this. They imagine men in black dragging you away. They imagine dramatic threats. It was quieter. It was a subtle pressure on your life until your own mind became the lock. Years passed. I tried once to find the flight in public records. Not deep research, just a simple search. Flight 071 airline. Nothing. Different airlines had flight numbers that included 71, but not that. Not my gate, not my route. I checked airport archives. Nothing. I told myself I had misread, that it was 0701, that it was 170, but I could still see the ink, 071. Sometimes at night, I would hear the cabin hum in my bedroom, steady and wrong, like a memory playing under my thoughts. I'd wake up with my teeth vibrating like the shiver was inside me. I'd check the clock, 0312, then 0310, then 0327, time sliding like a bad video edit. I got married again, had another kid, bought a house, lawn, garage, the kind of life that looks safe from the outside. I told myself I'd earned it, but I never stopped feeling like I'd been returned, not saved, returned, like an object that had served its purpose. Last month, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph. It looked like a standard airport security camera still, grainy, slightly angled, the gate area with seats, people sitting. My chest tightened because I recognized the pillar, the carpet pattern, the monitor above the gate, gate C12. In the photo, I am standing near the boarding lane with my carry-on. My face is turned slightly toward the camera. On the seat behind me, the woman with the paperback is visible, looking down at her open book. 3 clean-shoed men are seated apart, hands folded. The monitor above the gate shows on time, and in the corner of the monitor, the clock reads 0642, 15 minutes behind. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. Then I looked closer, at the place where I should be. Because yes, there is a man with a carry-on. The posture is mine, the jacket is mine, the luggage dent is mine. But the face is blurred. Not motion blur, not low resolution. It's like the camera couldn't decide how to render it, like the features were smoothed, generic, a placeholder. I flipped the photo over. On the back, in neat printed text, the same file-like string, and beneath it, confirmation of release. Nothing else, no note, no threat, just that. I sat at my kitchen counter, same kind of counter as years ago, different house, and listened to the refrigerator hum. I watched my son's lunchbox drying upside down because I'd washed it late the night before. My life had looped into the same domestic scene, like someone wanted me to believe in repetition. Then I remembered what Margaret said as they took her away.
Remember the moment with the lights. I hadn't wanted to remember it. I still don't. But the memory came anyway, not as a clear scene, but as physical sensations. The cabin lights flickering, the pause, the feeling of people around me becoming empty of themselves. A door that wasn't the plane door, a curtain pulled back, cold air, men with gloves. A voice near my ear, not Emily's, not the captain's.
Look at me.
And I did, because my body obeys authority even when my mind screams. I remember a bright light, close, not an overhead cabin light, something handheld.
He's awake enough. Good. Keep him that way.
Then a question not to me, but about me.
Which one is he replacing?
My stomach twists even now, because the answer is why I'm recording this. Someone answered. It wasn't Dr. Benner. It was me, in my own voice, flat and obedient, like I'd been rehearsing it. Row 13. I don't remember choosing to say it. I don't remember understanding, but I remember the relief that flooded me after, like my body had completed a task it was designed to complete. For 1 second, I saw the man from row 13. Not a passenger, not real in the way you and I mean real. He looked half-finished, like a person generated from scraps of other faces. Baseball cap, earbuds, normal enough to be ignored. His eyes met mine. He looked terrified, like he knew what I was, like he knew what I was about to do. I swallowed hard. My kitchen feels too bright now, even though it's early morning. The microwave clock says 0512. My phone says 0510. The same 15 minutes, the same seam. I don't know where Margaret went. I don't know how many people were released and how many were simply edited out. I only know this. The official version says the flight never existed, and the photograph says I wasn't even fully there. Sometimes, when I look at old pictures from before the flight, I feel a small delay between my smile and the emotion behind it, like the expression loads a fraction too late. I told myself that was aging. Last night, my son asked me why my name sounds different when he says it. I asked what he meant. He shrugged like it was nothing.
Like it's not your first name.
I laughed too loud. I told him he was being silly. I kissed his forehead and felt a brief, sharp ache in my jaw where that old vibration used to live. Later, I went into the garage and opened the hard-shell carry-on I keep on the top shelf, the one I never use anymore. The dent is still there. The luggage tag is still there. Inside, under the lining, there's a small flat device the size of a credit card taped to the plastic frame like it has always belonged there. No logo, no serial number, just a smooth black surface. When I touched it, it pulsed once against my fingertip. I understood why they called it release, because a release isn't freedom, it's permission. And if they ever decide they want the other thing back, the thing that left with Flight 071 and never came home, I think I'll feel that vibration again and my body will stand up and walk wherever they tell it to. I'm recording this because the most unfair part isn't what they did to the passengers, it's what they did to responsibility. They made me answer the question. They made me point at row 13, and then they let me build a life on top of it like it was mine. My phone just vibrated. There's a calendar block on my screen. No title, 2 hours, location blank, starting at 0740, ending at 0940. Underneath it, in small gray text, like a reminder I didn't set, release confirmation required. I don't know if I'm being summoned or if I'm being checked. I don't know if I'm the man who came back or the placeholder that replaced him. I only know that when I look at my reflection in the dark kitchen window, sometimes my face looks slightly unfinished, like a camera trying to decide. And if you're listening to this, if this gets out, then maybe the race existed for one more person besides me. Because right now, sitting here, with the refrigerator humming and the microwave clock running 15 minutes ahead, I can feel something inside my teeth starting to